In Dallas tonight, screaming teenage girls filled a shopping mall just to get a glimpse of the little-known actors who will bring the story of Twilight to life on screen. And to get a movie poster personally autographed.
Can I shake your hand?
It was amazing! We just met Robert Pattinson, and it was like the best thing that's ever happened to me. It was insane.
It was like that in Seattle, too, where they had lined up at 4 in the morning.
I'm stoked. We're not even going to leave. We're going to stay in our friend's car until they show up.
In San Francisco, as many as 3,000 screaming fans showed up for an autograph event where only 500 would be allowed inside.
This event has been canceled.
So riled was the crowd of mostly teenage girls that the crush got out of hand.
Then the police and the fire trucks and ambulance came and nobody moved, so they just shut it down.
Then they put the event back on. So it goes with the saga of Twilight, the teenage vampire romance that started as an author's dream and became a publishing phenomenon of 4 novels and over 17 million books, with readers streaming to signings and readings like the appearances of the latest boy band. And now Twilight is a major, we mean like totally major, motion picture about to hit the theaters.
I'm so excited. I can hardly contain myself.
It's the cutest love story ever. I feel like I'm in love when I'm reading it.
The books and the movie are about an average teenage girl named Bella Swan in Forks, Washington, who falls in love with a 100-year-old vampire frozen in the body of 17-year-old Edward Cullen.
How old are you?
17.
How long have you been 17?
A while.
In print, Edward is described as luminescently beautiful, an impossibly perfect guy, and in the movie, it falls to the all-too-human 22-year-old Robert Pattinson to live up to the expectations of those girls lined up for his autograph.
I put off the audition for ages because I just thought this is just so silly, and it's also arrogant and embarrassing even turning up for the perfect guy audition. I think I'm in with a chance. It's like auditioning for Mr. Universe.
It's all the invention of author Stephenie Meyer, who created that average girl other average girls could admire, and Edward, the boy they could only hope for.
I'm not scared of you.
You really shouldn't have said that.
All over America, teenage girls are swooning, and theater owners may be doing the same.
I have a daughter who said Edward is the perfect boyfriend.
I don't know that I agree with that. There's a lot of other characters that I think would be a little bit less work. But he is a gentleman, and that's such a rare thing now that I think a lot of girls are sort of taken by this person who is chivalrous and makes a lot of his decisions based on not what makes him happy, but what makes his girlfriend happy.
This is fiction and Hollywood we're talking about here, but if his appearances on the press tour are any indication, the stylishly scruffy and British Pattinson just might have the stuff of the American vampire, Edward.
People were so obsessed and passionate about the book that when there's an actual physical thing that they can touch from it instead of just only being able to connect with their imaginations.
The dramatic tension of the story is that in the midst of one of those I can't live without you teenage romances, Edward has to fight the urge to drink Bella's blood and kill her. He really can't live without her, but he does. He restrains himself.
You are my life now.
He has this desire both to devour her with love and devour her literally.
Literally, right. Well, that's what gives you the tension. It's that extra aspect where it's not just life or death because my heart's going to be broken. It's life or death as in you could die in the next 15 minutes. I tend to be drawn towards fiction with fantasy elements just because you can take normal humans and sort of push them beyond what we really have to deal with every day. And so to have people who are by definition monsters, who don't want to be monsters, and the conflict in that, it makes for some really interesting stuff to work with.
This just may be the moment when vampires get the understanding and appreciation they've always craved. 2008, the year of the vampire. Competing for attention is HBO's True Blood, a vampire melodrama set in a small Louisiana town where a waitress with telepathic powers falls for, we've seen this somewhere, a handsome boy who's a vampire.
Oh, but you have other very juicy arteries. You just shut your nasty mouth, mister. You might be a vampire, but when you talk to me, you will talk to me like the lady that I am.
Although some might say they've been with us forever, vampires have populated literature for at least 200 years. And if Bram Stoker was the father of vampires, Stephenie Meyer is the literary mother.
How much research did you have to do about vampires?
Barely any at all. I knew I was breaking the rules, so there wasn't much point in studying up about vampires and finding out what's right and wrong. I mean, they're fictional. I can do whatever I want.
And in doing that, she also created a little world in which, amazingly enough, two teenagers in passionate love refrain from having sex.
Teenage fiction these days, whether on television or even in books, kids in that situation end up having sex, and these two don't.
Right, which is really a part of the characters as they exist in my head. Edward's someone who has a lot of gifts, but also really sees a lot of them as drawbacks, and he knows how dangerous he is, and he's always very, very, very careful around Bella because the last thing in the world he wants to do is hurt her, and because he's so physically dangerous. For him, it's a huge deal even to put his arm around her because he knows that that's kind of a risk.
If you couldn't fulfill your desires, then it would seem like an extraordinarily painful experience. But if you add to that the fact that your desires are to kill them, to kill the object of your affection, I think it just puts into a much more extreme scenario.
But wait, there's more. 3 more novels, possibly 3 more movies of heavy-breathing romance and vampire violence. But in making this movie, Pattinson learned a little about what girls really like.
Apparently, they like kind of old-fashioned virtues of, you know, opening doors and things, and just being a kind of gentleman, which I really didn't think was thought of as that attractive anymore. Apparently, it is.
What they like is Edward Cullen, the perfect boyfriend. He is just like so hot.
Oh, that was so awesome! I'm shaking. I didn't even say anything, but it was amazing.
I said thank you, and he said no problem. I'm good for life.
This is Brian Rooney for Nightline in Hollywood.